Gaming Librarian, and joining me today, unfortunately, are my two best friends in the entire world who were suckers enough to agree to join me on this podcast today. And so, Gaming Narratives is sort of like an experimental session that I'm running through where I talk with best friends and or random people about some of their favorite gaming experiences. And so today I'm going to be talking with my two friends as we explore Super Metroid that originally came out in 1994 on the Super Nintendo. And then afterwards, we'll also be looking at Final Fantasy IX, which came out. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to think when Final Fantasy IX came out. I think it was 1999. But anyway, enough of my chatter. I will let my friends introduce themselves.
Well, I'm Cliff, and yeah, I'm going to be talking about Super Metroid today, and how it's one of my favorite games of all time.
My name is Ashton, and I'll be talking about Final Fantasy IX.
Perfect. Sweet. Okay. Super simple. All right. The joys of having your friends do this. I imagine they'll never agree to do anything like this with me again. They'll be like, Chris, you burned your one bridge on this one. But we'll get started. So in the background, we just have a playthrough of the video game running. But I guess my first question, Cliff, as Super Metroid is your game, is why did you pick this game over others? I know you're a big gamer like myself, and you've played a ton of games in your lifetime. Actually, both you and Ashton. But why Super Metroid over others? And then what were some of the runner-ups?
Okay, this game for me is a really big one because, like, when I was a kid and everything, I was given a Super Nintendo to me by one of my first cousins, and he worked at Rogers Video, and he had a collection, and this was one of the first ones that I picked up out of that cartridge and put in. And right from the moment I put it in, like, I was drawn right into it because, like, the music, like, it just gave it a certain atmosphere to it, like in the opening, that opening little cinematic it has, it's like it really draws you into it because you have no idea what's going on, and then right when you boot it up and you start playing, it just gives you a little brief idea of like what's happening by saying like the last Metroid is in captivity and everything, and like you just know that it's like a very valuable like kind of source, like they can maybe get some kind of like make some kind of like bio weapon with it or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, like yeah, and then you deliver it to the scientist and everything, and like right from then like everything just starts going wrong, and you're like Samus is just like the main character's name is Samus for like those that don't know, but I'm sure lots of people do at this point. But yeah, and Samus is just like, I barely have made it beyond like the asteroid belt before I've gotten like a distress signal, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh shoot, like what's going on here? Like I'm it like threw me right in because like you have no idea what the heck is going on, and you make your way through this station, you find out like everybody aboard is like died, and being like pretty young at that age, I didn't have like that well of like a concept of like how like high the stakes are in this game,
Yeah.
and yeah, like, you make your way, you find like all these scientists that have been like dispatched of, and you make your way and you find this big dragon monster at the end that's like the source of all these like problems, and it steals this Metroid away, and then you're off making your way to the main planet there to take it down and find out where it's taken it so you
Yeah.
can return it back to like other scientists for study.
So, I'm not sure if you guys can see the Twitch stream right now. So, playing in the background, we just have the introductory part to the game. Samus is just escaping the station there where there was that 60-second countdown. Like, you go in, you take on Ripley, and then you need to, like, scuttle it back out.
That was really cool as well that I thought of, too. Like, as soon as you beat it, it's like you got like a minute to escape this station, and you gotta like book it, and you're it's just like nerve-wracking and everything, and that was like different from any like kind of game, but like Mario that I played. Like it's like oh, you will die if you don't get out of this thing right now.
Yeah. So putting on my historian cap for a quick second, and for viewers watching this, so keep in mind that this game came out in 1994. So like we're right on the cusp. Super Nintendo's never been bigger. They're blowing the world away. This actually would be the same year that Donkey Kong Country 1 came out, which sort of had that pseudo 2D, 3D graphic approach to it, which hadn't really been seen before. But it would be a year after Super Metroid came out that the PlayStation 1 would release. So just as you're looking at the video in the background, consider that a year from now we would have some of our first polygon 3D based games coming out. So like this is Nintendo art style at its finest. So obviously we're talking about Super Metroid, but I'm really curious because I know you've played 1,000,001 games. Why Super Metroid over any other game, and what would have those other games been? You don't need to list them all, but like top 3.
Okay, well, top 3 besides Super Metroid around that time, definitely Chrono Trigger. That game, like, so I was never big on turn-based games and stuff, and for a game to get me into role-playing game like that, I was like pretty astonished, because Chrono Trigger, it got me with its story.
Yeah.
And everything, because it's like I won't go into it, but it's a crazy ride, like traveling through time and everything. So that game is up there, and Mega Man X is also like right up there as well.
Mega Man, I will admit, has always terrified me as a series. Chrono Trigger, I've mostly played through. It's an RPG. I'm happy to play through it. Mega Man, I play the first level. I die a couple times. I'm like, no, done with this. And every Mega Man is the same. I think, okay, surely it's been 20 years. My gaming skills have developed a little bit more. We're now at Mega Man, what, 11? That's recently come out. I sit down to play it. I'm like, no, just as hard. I hate this.
Well, I will say, I think Mega Man is a lot harder than Mega Man X.
Okay.
Like X, like I just like it better because you get Dr. Light and you go in his capsule to get like stronger and stuff. That's something I actually really like about like games in general, like, because again, Super Metroid paved like kind of the way for other games. Like it's its own genre, Metroidvania, Castlevania.
Yeah.
And so this game, like, for me, like, started that whole thing, and that was awesome. there's just something about starting off as like this weak character that will get like messed up by pretty much anything in your way, and then you find all these power-ups and you become like this huge menace by the end of it.
And the video is showing you some of the more obvious power-ups that there are. But what was really awesome about Super Metroid at the time was it really rewarded backtracking. So you could look at what was once what you thought was a plain wall, you'd shoot a rocket at it once you got rockets, and then suddenly you're like, oh wait, there's a little hole in that wall now. Can I get in it? Not quite yet. I need to get the Morph Ball power up. And then you'd go back and lo and behold, like it's just an upgrade for more rockets or something like that. But
yeah.
The little nuances.
That was the thing about this game. Like, it wasn't a linear path that you take, like Mario or Mega Man X or anything. Like, there's exploration involved in this game, and that was always really cool for me as like a kid. Like, oh, like I could take my time and do whatever you want in
Yeah.
it and explore different like nooks and crannies everywhere to find out like, oh, like it paid off. Like I found like super missiles or something beyond here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to the next question. Though I will highlight, I really loved your point about this sort of introducing the Metroid Castlevania. The what is it? The Metroidvania
Yes,
genre.
that's right.
So it would be 3 years. Again, I can't help but put the history cap on, but it would be 3 years after this game came out that Castlevania Symphony of the Nights came out, and that those two are considered the the holy duo, so to speak, that defined that genre of Metroidvania. Okay, so what are some of your memories of this game? Like, what really stood out to you? What's the one thing that really, when you think of Super Metroid, first comes to your mind?
Well, I think about like, I guess for me, like the kind of the way it ends and everything, really will always like leave quite a memory because like
Okay, so
it,
big alert! You've had 27 years. Viewers, right now, in this moment or later on, big spoiler alerts. 27 years
yes.
later, Cliff is about to spoil the ending of Super Metroid because I'm going to dig deep into this question. So, if you haven't played it yet, stop,
I am so sorry for you
tune
guys.
back in about 10 minutes, and we'll skip over, or just when Ashton starts talking about Final Fantasy IX, that's when you want to click back and start watching the video again. Okay, so go ahead. The ending of Super Metroid.
Okay, so throughout this whole game, you are looking for this Metroid and everything, and you make your way through it, and there's again like so many awesome moments, like your first power suit and like all the different upgrades, like being able to jump higher, not only jump higher like a space jump ability to continuously jump. The upgrades in this game like were really awesome, like a grapple hook, X-ray vision, all these different things, which I thought was really awesome at that time. But again, so you're working your way through this game, and you end up finding that dragon monster Ridley and everything, and then after you defeat him, you find the Metroid capsule that the Metroid was being held in, broken,
Yeah.
and you have no idea what has happened to it. And so you make your way to the end, and you're fighting the main last boss, the Mother Brain, and everything, and right before like you can't beat this boss, which was another really cool thing about this game. Like one of the first times where it's like you're meant to lose, like you're not meant to win this battle.
Oh, okay. So,
Everything.
there's no possible way whatsoever to win this battle?
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I
Okay.
forgot. Yes, and I forgot before I say this part. Just briefly before you fight the Mother Brain, you encounter this Metroid, and it's this gigantic Metroid as well. And you can't kill it either. You're meant to lose against this thing as well. And it starts sucking your life force out from you. And right before it kills you, it leaves you with one health left, and then it kind of looks at you and makes like a weird noise, and it starts like thinking like you're its mother and everything, like
Okay.
you're its parent and everything, and it like leaves you alone. And yeah, so then you make your way to the Mother Brain, and you're fighting against it, and you're losing again, and you have again like no health left, and it's about to deliver the final blow to you. And then the Metroid comes in, and it starts sucking the life force out of the Mother Brain, and you're just looking up like helpless. You can't move or anything. You're like, oh my god, what's happening here? like I don't know what's going to happen next. And then out of nowhere, like the Metroid leaves, but then it suddenly comes back and comes onto you, and it starts giving you back all your energy. And
Okay.
and it's taking bullets from you. It's like sacrificing itself for you, and it gives you back all its health and everything. And it gets up to leave and then it tries to swoop back onto the mother brain to suck like the life force from it again, and the mother brain ends up shooting it and killing it.
Oh,
And for me,
okay.
that was a big moment. I was like, oh my god, like I can't believe it. Like, what is happening here?
Well,
and
knowing
everything,
the
like-
sort of gamer that you are, I even as a kid, you probably went in with like almost 100% of the upgrades and weapons that you could have. So to suddenly walk into a boss battle where you're like, oh wait,
Yeah.
nothing that I'm doing to this thing is killing it or getting rid of it, would have been like, as an adult, that would drive me nuts, let alone being a little kid going, wait, I've done all this work and you're telling me I've gone to the end of the game and I can't do anything
by
to
the end of
defeat
it,
this
you're
boss?
just like, oh, I could take on anything. This is
Yeah.
gonna be no problem.
No.
Like easy. And it's like, no, like
Yeah.
like you're not going to be getting out of this that easy.
Yeah, happy Super Metroid. You'll never beat this game, so good luck.
But
Go ahead.
So, yeah, at the end of it all, so the Metroid gives you back all its energy, sacrifices its life for you, and as it falls and dies on you, it ends up giving you the ability that the mother brain was using against you, called the Hyper Beam. And this beam just messes up everything in its path. It just obliterates, destroys everything, and you just like get up like pretty much with like a vengeance and everything, and you're like, I'm going to get you for what you just did to this Metroid, man.
Nice.
And you just blow the mother brain like away, and then again you're in another escape sequence. You got like 3 minutes or something to escape the planet. And it was just like a big rush at the end. It was like, wow, like this is incredible. Like no other game like did that for me at that time, because for me that was like something really different.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So I know you've been quiet in the background, Ashton, so I'll check in with you. Did you have a Super Nintendo growing up? I know as kids, like we used to play PlayStation and N64 a lot. But before you had the PlayStation and the N64, did you have any other consoles?
I think I pretty much had them all. Even GameCube. I never had a Dreamcast though.
Yeah, because I know for myself, like I was a Genesis kid. So I grew up with Sonic. I grew up with Shinobi, that sort of thing. I actually didn't know about Super Metroid's existence until I met you, Cliff. When we were in high school, so like 10 years past the fact, and I was like, this is such a huge hidden gem on the Super Nintendo, and it actually made me really envious that you got to grow up as a Super Nintendo kid.
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky. I like to admit that.
Yeah, because I think all too often what ends up coming up for like really diehard Metroid fans is that they argue that this is the best in terms of the entire series, and then depending on who you talk to, they'll say, you know, the second best will go to the Metroid Prime series, which would come out on the GameCube in the early 2000s. But yeah, I'm just watching gameplay in the background going, I wish I had this. It's so colorful and so different from, don't get me wrong, I love Sonic, but Sonic is not Metroid in the least. And you don't get cool power-ups in that RPG element. Okay, so before I wrap up my time with you and we bug Ashton a little bit to talk to us about Final Fantasy IX, I'll finish off the last two questions. So how do you think Super Metroid influenced your future gaming choices?
Well, like, I would say, like, because I didn't play a whole lot of fighting games and stuff back then. Like, I had Mortal Kombat and stuff, but since this one, like, stuck with me, like, any game that had, like, you as, like, a weak character at the very beginning, gaining power-ups and, like, gaining, like, the ability to become, like, strong, because, like, I always liked playing, like, an underdog, kind of.
Yeah.
And like being able to rise up and prove like everybody kind of like wrong in this kind of scenario in my head, like like makes me like want to buy these types of games like Metroid or like Far Cry, like BioShock and stuff. Just like all these kinds of games where you start off with nothing and yeah, by the end of it you're like this like walking tank.
Pretty much. If you've played it right. And then for those tuning in and watching who have never played Super Metroid, why would you recommend this title to people who are playing it for the first time or like a new generation of gamers?
Well, if anybody is into like the whole Metrovania type of like gaming scheme, like if you want to see its roots and everything and like see where that all began, like there's no better place than Super Metroid for that.
Yeah.
And like I'd say if you love exploration, if you like finding like cool little like hidden secrets and stuff, like this is absolutely the game for you. And like there are so many like really crazy moments in this game as well that like it doesn't have to tell you like the story. You just kind of figure it out for yourself without any words being spoken to you, which is also like a really cool thing. I like when games are able to do that kind of thing where they don't need to tell you, oh hey, like this is happening. Like you can see it and experience it.
Well, I think you've sold me on it. I've been playing a lot of the Mass Effect trilogy recently, but I think I'm gonna whip out my little tiny SNES classic, and maybe boot up some Super Metroid later tonight and give it a go.
Oh, go for it, man.
Yeah, no, seriously, it's been a lot of fun. So, are there any points that you would want to add, or are we good to switch over?
I think we're good to switch over.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Cliff, for your insights on Super Metroid. Before I get too excited for copyright purposes, because the librarian in me, after all, has to do this, I will give video credit to the two YouTube creators who are watching right now. So Nas Winger, so Nas Winger, for the Super Metroid playthrough, and then coming up, I'll give credit and thanks to Shirako, so Shirrako, for the playthrough footage of Final Fantasy IX. So I'll just swap over the YouTube video, so if an ad comes up, my apologies for that one, and we will start going through Final Fantasy IX.
Ooh, I can't wait.
And of course there is an ad for Sour Patch Kids.
First, they're sour.
Classic.
Who doesn't like Sour Patch Kids?
It's true. Okay, so we'll just start the video right from the very beginning. So, Final Fantasy IX. And my best friend Ashton, well, both my best friends, but second best friend, I know, I'm not here to create jealousy or resentment amongst here. Watches like Cliff's screen just goes black. He's like, I'm done. I'm checking out. But yeah, so yeah, Ashton is here to talk to us about Final Fantasy IX. So, Super Metroid with Cliff didn't come as too much of a surprise, just because I grew up with you. I saw you talk about Super Metroid, play a lot of Super Metroid. But Ashton, you're the egg, the case, the cookie that I can't quite crack, because for viewers watching, this guy I grew up with, and so sort of our deal is I would come over to his house for sleepovers. I would bring over Mario Party 1, and we would give ourselves blisters on the stupid N64 controller. Yeah, exactly. Everyone from that time period knows that minigame. In order to win, you had to sacrifice and pain yourself as a gamer. But once we were done playing Mario Party, Ashton would turn around and say, oh hey, let's play some PlayStation, and he would boot up Final Fantasy. But wait, not the one that we're watching, thank you very much, but rather you would always boot up Final Fantasy VII. So here I am coming up with the premise for this and inviting you guys on, and I'm like, okay, Ashton, like I've already set the YouTube footage for Final Fantasy VII. It's good to go. We're gonna see Cloud. We're gonna see Tifa. And you turn around and you're like, actually, no, Chris, I want to do Final Fantasy IX. So, why 9 of a multitude of Final Fantasy titles? Why did you pick 9?
I picked 9 just because it was the most recent one that I had been running through. I had been playing Final Fantasy IX on my Xbox for an undetermined amount of hours.
It sounds like a Final Fantasy game. You can't be too upfront with how many hours you've actually put into it.
Oh no. No, I've put in well over hundreds of hours into Final Fantasy games. Just a lot of like RPG games, just grinding and like leveling. Just like one day you're like, oh yeah, I'd get off school, you know, it's 3:30, put on the Final Fantasy 7 or 9, and then next thing you know, it's like, it's 10 o'clock, I should probably go to bed.
Oh, jeez. And of course, those are, well, I mean, I would say those are school hours, but, you know, the joys of being in our 30s now, 9 o'clock sounds like a pretty good bedtime to me. After a long day, I'm like, you know what? It's 9. If I'm lucky, it's a Friday, I'll push 10 o'clock, and then I'm just, like, asleep in the lazy boy in the living room. And my wife is having to be like, Chris, wake up, like it's time to go to bed. I'm like, no.
I used to sleep in my gaming chair. I used to sit really awkwardly. I'd have like my knees up like this, and then I'd just like be playing like this or like whatever, and the next time I was like sleeping.
Extra intense.
Yeah. Just, yeah, I would wake up and not be able to move after that nowadays.
Back's all sore, and you're like,
You always did like go big with games that you liked. You invested lots of hours into them.
But yeah, so I spent many hours like watching you play Final Fantasy VII, and I just looked it up. So Final Fantasy VII history moment would sort of be the big one. So Final Fantasy VII had been on the Super Nintendo 1 through 6. Final Fantasy VII was the first one to sort of transition over and was like groundbreaking on the PlayStation. And that was the one I watched you play a lot. But Final Fantasy VIII came out to like not as much fervor. And then 9 has actually become quite the cult classic. Just for its art style, it was very different. Everyone was expecting like this nitty gritty, like super soldier or
giant block hands, your arms like this big.
Giant block hands, a sword that's like bigger than their entire body, or you have Squall's sword, which was a sword with a gun because somehow that makes sense. And then Final Fantasy IX came out, and it was like this super cartoony game, and as you can see in the video footage, like the main protagonist has blonde hair that's iconic of like the 2000s, but also has a monkey's tail, so like a little bit of homage to Dragon Ball there with Goku in protagonist form. But what stood out to you about 9?
9, I think when it first came out was just like you said, the art style was different, and it was just like very captivating. Like at the time, you like see those graphics, and you're like, wow, like that, like these are like amazing graphics. And then it just kind of like pulls you in. And since I was already a big fan of the Final Fantasy series, I just kind of carried on with it on 9. I didn't play it very much. I kind of like looked at it, I was like, not really my cup of tea. But I don't know, maybe just like the color, the brightness, the colorfulness, and like the whole like cartoony style was like very like inviting. And yeah, and then also like with Zidane having like the monkey tail like the whole time, you're like, what are you? What's happening?
Thank you. As you can tell, I've never played Final Fantasy IX, so I could not remember the protagonist's name. So Zidane. I'll remember Final Fantasy VIII, Squall, and Cloud from 7, but Zidane just like completely went over my head there.
I thought his name was always Dagger. something like that.
Dagger's Garnet, the healer. Like she's like the main female character. She goes as Garnet, but then she wants to have like a cooler name. So then she names herself after the knife that Zidane has. She's like, oh, what's that? And he's like, oh, it's a dagger. And she's like, cool name. And then she just likes being called Dagger after that.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I asked Cliff this, and I'll ask you. So you picked Final Fantasy IX, and I know I've talked a lot about 7. But what would your runner-ups have been for this one? Like, what are your top 3 games that are most memorable to you?
Fallout. Fallout's one of them.
Okay. Like, the Fallout series as a whole, or like one
Yeah,
this?
I like the whole Fallout series as a whole. I like the whole premise of, you know, oh, there's like nuclear war, so they all hide away in this little like shelter, and then you come into this like radiation-ridden world, and you have to like survive. And also, to be honest, you always get the sneak abilities, and you start stealing as much as you can. And
Naturally. Okay, so we have Fallout.
yeah, the Elder Scrolls series. My first one was on the Xbox with Morrowind.
Yeah.
Played that countless hours, and like I've just followed that along. So Oblivion after that, and then Skyrim.
Nice. I really tried to get into Morrowind on the original Xbox, but I found it so. I personally found it so slow paced, and I couldn't get into the lore of it. And it wasn't until Oblivion on the 360 where I was like, oh, like this can actually be a really fun game. Though I know, looking back on it, apparently some of the mods that you could get in Morrowind are the stuff of legend. If you ever have a chance to YouTube Morrowind mods, like you could just you think ragdoll characters or something, just wait until you hit a character and like game break them off the map into literal oblivion. No pun intended on that one. Yeah. Okay. And so going with Final Fantasy IX, what are your top memories of it? Like,
I remember I the chocobo and like trying to find like the treasures and like never being able to find them, because back in the day, you know, you didn't have YouTube to do your like little guides. You actually had to buy like the book
yeah.
to like read through the book, and then like, you're literally just looking at different photos of what you got to do in like a walkthrough. And then it's like, oh, this is where you want to go to get the treasure. And you're like, well, that's not helping me at all. Now I gotta like read this book, and now I've got to like figure it out on the game. And it was just very time consuming, let's put it that way.
Fair enough.
But just the whole game as an all, just like the whole like the mini games here and there, the card game. I like the card games. You know, I'd always like just challenge everybody. So I'm like, I want to get the best cards, and I want to like, you know, this is I think the Final Fantasy that started coming into like with the like additional side game plays that you could like, as you go, like you find stronger cards, and then you can battle people, and then you win, and then like, I mean, it doesn't do anything for you really, but it gives you a like sense of like, I beat that guy.
Yeah, like you've done the meta. You're not only a complete boss in the main game, but you also know that you can hold your own and wipe the floor with anyone in the meta game within the game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but then like somebody beats you, you're like, yeah, no, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. You can't beat me. I'm challenging this guy again. Or you just save before like the tournament, and then halfway through the card tournament, you're like, nope, that's not good for me.
Just
turn
backtrack.
them off, turn it back on.
Yeah.
Yeah, the original restart, save, and then quit.
Yeah.
Forget save states.
And so I'm curious. Like I know we played a lot of 7. How many times have you played through and beaten 9?
2, but I definitely put a lot of time into playing it. Like, the second time, I haven't finished it the second time because I kind of put it on the back burner for right now.
Yeah.
But I've gotten, I think, almost everything. Like, I'm watching walkthroughs and stuff, but like grinding levels, so when I get to the next boss, it's just kind of like a super cakewalk. And like I think I'm going against the first ultimate boss, Ozma, and I just grinded to get to like as high as I could by like just grinding out grand dragons, and now like I'm ready to fight the boss. And then one of my other games kind of came out with an update, and I'm like, well, better play that for a little bit.
Yeah. That's something that I wish I knew as a kid about these RPGs. Is that you have to grind. Like, you have no choice. Yeah. You need to be able to just blink at the NPC in a certain area to kill them, and then, just then, are you ready to then go on to the next area, because the enemies are going to be super powerful again, and just wipe the floor with you. Because too many times I would get to the end of these JRPGs, to the final boss, I'm like, no, I didn't do enough grinding, and now I'm learning this lesson now, and I'll never beat the game. Unlike Clifford's situation, where that was built into the game to happen, I just sucked and didn't have enough levels.
Dude, I went there with Chrono Trigger, man. I know your pain.
Grind at those levels.
Yeah. And so, I guess we alluded to it a bit with like Fallout, but how did Final Fantasy IX influence your future gaming choices?
It kind of like, it sort of had its own like sandboxy kind of thing. Like, once you leave the area, like, you're in the world map, you kind of run around, do what you want, but it's also very limited onto like where you can go in that section of the world. So it might be like 3 or 4 different places, but really it's still like a linear path for the main storyline, and that there's not a lot of like side quests you can kind of take off and do.
Yeah.
But it started to with like finding the like the extra coins and like different cards and like finding like the treasures. So it kind of like had side quests that way. So when I started playing Fallout and then Morrowind, it turned into like just a giant sandbox game where you can really do whatever you want. You know, you want to go to the main quest line goes this way, but it's like, no, I want to join the Mage Guild, and now I've got an entirely side quest related. And then like you just sandbox, you can kind of do whatever you want. So that's kind of like where it started.
Okay. And then because like you talk a bit about the Morrowind aspect, but you're with my friend Ashton, like, he is the one that if I ever had any World of Warcraft oriented question or Destiny, he would be the guy that I would go to. I completely I tend to not have enough patience for these games, but I also like really suck at getting the top gear. My friend Ashton here, like Destiny 2, you run any raid with him, and he's just like, dead. And meanwhile, I'm like, leave me alone. It's been 5 minutes, and I'm just trying to take care of this really easy enemy because my gear is not equipped enough to take it down. But leave me alone, I want to do it myself. But would you say playing Final Fantasy, like back in the day as a kid, influenced a lot of how you approached and entered into these games now?
Definitely gives you the patience and like teaches you patience. So, you know, you can't beat something, you gotta grind it out. You know, you want to do better, you gotta grind it out.
Yeah.
I was actually gonna say, like, the Final Fantasy IX kind of seems like the kind of game I'd be for, because like you were saying, like, there is some side missions, but there is a clear linear path, and I find myself, like, whenever like the game gives me maybe too much at once, like, I get caught up in side missions, and then I never end up beating the game because I'm just like too overwhelmed, like, oh, I gotta get everything, because I'm like, I guess, a little bit of a completionist.
And
but,
Yeah.
did you ever get a chance to play any of the Final Fantasy games?
I went through 10. That was another one. For a long period of time,
Yeah.
I never played any of the Final Fantasies. Then I went through 10. I was like, wow, this was awesome. And yeah, no, I wouldn't mind actually trying out 9 now, and like seeing how that was. That seemed to be like the next one to try out, and then maybe 13.
Yeah, so like the video that's
All over the map.
playing in the background right now, I do believe is the updated version. And so the perk about the updated version is like you can click in your left stick and it turbo speeds through things. So when you're trying to grind levels, it like makes life so much easier. Or if you like play in baby mode like me, the Final Fantasy VII re-release, not the remake, the re-release of the old 97 title. My favorite thing to do is if you click in both the right and left sticks at the same time, it gives you instant limit breaker. And then I'm like, all right, I'm dying in this battle. Instant limit breaker. Okay, dead. And you can call it cheating.
Go on with the story.
It gets me along with the story because at 33 years old, I'm too old to play damn games at the hardest level possible. If there's an easy casual mode, I will play through it so that I can enjoy the story. Because $90 is not worth me pulling my hair out and or gaining gray hair.
But the trophies.
Yeah, I know. I will have these two on another day for another episode just solely dedicated to the stuff we do for trophies and achievements.
Oh, God.
And I'm sure that episode will last hours as we dig up some of the most shameful things, mostly on my end, for what have been done for trophies and achievements.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, so Final Fantasy X, that's a really good one because that launched with the PlayStation 2. And sort of everyone really loved that one. If anything, the first Final Fantasy that I hopped into and really enjoyed was Final Fantasy 13. That was the one that I remember most fondly. Because it was the first one to come out on an Xbox. So I didn't have a PlayStation like consistently. So Final Fantasy 13, when it came out, I was like, oh, this is really fun. And then I backtracked. And I played Final Fantasy 7 and 8 and 9. And then 10 I played. I didn't play 10-2. Though I've heard the 10 and 10-2 storyline are like some of the best. People often really love that storyline between... the two characters' names are escaping me at the moment. Titus and...
Yuna?
Yeah. And sort of their love story. Final Fantasy 11, I'll just skip over. That was an MMO. Didn't have time for it. And then 12, I skipped over to PlayStation 2, so then get to play. But 13, I absolutely love that trilogy. And so, I have to ask, are you guys excited for Final Fantasy 16 coming out next year? Potentially, hopefully, maybe. Like, fingers crossed.
Yeah, that'd be awesome to pick up. I'm making my way through 7 as well, the remake as well, and that's pretty awesome as well.
Yeah.
If it comes on the Xbox, I'll get it. Not everyone can have every console, Chris.
Okay, yes, I know. Well, 7 should be coming, the remake of 7. They said Sony only had a year of exclusive rights to it, and then it should be porting over. So hopefully E3 next month. Xbox is like, big reveal, Final Fantasy 7 remake is coming. But we'll have to wait to see. So I guess my last question for you, Ashton, is for a new generation of players or those playing Final Fantasy 9 for the first time, why would you recommend this title to them?
It's like a very cartoony, inviting kind of style. Little things here and there you can do, but also like gives you like the ability to like kind of like grind it out. I mean, it's not the funnest thing in the world to grind it out, but like then like with the card games, and it's just it kind of starts bringing in like the side quest missions and stuff like that. So, like, but I mean, all in all, like it's literally hours and hours of fun and enjoyment, and I always had a blast playing it. Like, I mean, I'm on my second run through now, which I should probably pick up where I left off because I just picked up Final Fantasy 10 and 10-2, so I'm gonna start running through those. So I better finish 9 first.
Yeah, and I guess my last question for you would be: if I'm just starting this game, what's the and because you talked about how open world it is, what's the first thing that I should go out of my way to do to make this game easier for me?
Steal. So like that. So
classic.
when you are in boss fights, like a main boss fight,
Yeah.
always steal because it's always got better gear than you can get for a little while. So whenever you go against a boss, they usually have 3 pieces of armor or weapons that you can steal with the main character's Zidane, and that'll like give you the next edge over the next little time. But then there'll have to be a little bit of grinding in between, and just make sure like you're checking everything. Like, oh, it's a little bush over there. Nah, it's got a treasure chest behind it.
No. Okay. Sound advice. So, steal in the game, non-stop, not in real life. Real life, that's problematic. You may think that you'll get far. You may have a slight advantage, but don't steal all the time in real life. But in Final Fantasy IX, sky's the limit. Pickpocket everything, especially the bosses. And so, is there anything else that we want to add to this? No, we're feeling good. Okay.
Get your fingertips ready for a lot of playtime.
Yeah. Oh, and my 2 thumbs ready to click in those double sticks to get limit breakers at any given moment. Okay. So just to close things off. So these have been. Yes. Hot take, Cliff.
I do want to bring up one thing about Metroid, if I still have the chance.
Go ahead.
I forgot about one major point also that's really awesome about the game is it's also a very historic thing for you, Chris, as well. It's like also the first like badass woman in like video game history. Like that was also a very big reveal at the end of the Metroid as well, is that you find out the protagonist that you're playing as isn't actually a man, it's this woman as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was like also really cool, like to see, because again, no other game had really done that at that time.
Yeah. And so to my viewers, spoiler alert, sorry for that one if you haven't already figured it out 27 years later. Samus is female. Yeah, if you've ever played Smash Brothers and have wondered, why is there Samus and then Zero Suit Samus? And is Samus a guy and Zero Suit Samus a female? No, they are one and the same, believe it or not. But yeah, no, and really cool factoid like that actually caused a lot of upset because people are like, oh, bounty hunter can't be a female, it's gotta be a guy, and then that iconic scene. Yeah, if you have a chance to YouTube it and you don't want to play through the entire game, there is a very iconic pixelated scene of like the suit being blasted off, and you can just see this mane of pixelated blonde hair flow out, and you're like, what? It's a woman? Like, how the heck? But
you actually have to get like that's the best ending to even get that revealed. There's three endings to the game too, which is also another cool thing. Multiple endings.
Seriously, in the Super Nintendo game, multiple endings, and I assume you had to do like very specific things to get them.
This one is more simpler. It's just beat the game like under a certain amount of time. The faster you beat it, the better the ending you get. I think it's like under 2 or 3 hours if you can beat the game.
Yeah, so a miracle feat that I'll never achieve myself. Even after like 27 years of gaming, I don't think I'll ever blast through Super Metroid that quickly. But yeah, very cool fact. So thanks, Cliff, for that one. Okay. Well, I guess to save you guys time, I'll just wrap things up. So these have been my 2 best, most favoritist friends ever for signing on and agreeing to be the test subjects to this first episode. But don't think that this is the last time you'll see their faces. I wasn't kidding when I said we're going to run an entire episode about the zany things that we do for achievements and trophies to unlock them. But certainly, thank you everyone for signing in to the first gaming narratives session, where I invite on friends, family, and random strangers to talk about some of their favorite gaming moments. And so my hope is to run this every Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And I guess any final words, any goodbyes to the audience, Cliff and Ashton?
Thanks for having us.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for having us, and happy gaming.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. That is the best way to sign off on this one. And so this has been Chris, me, the gaming librarian, talking to you, and my two best friends, Cliff and Ashton. And I am signing off. Bye.